Go. Thanks, Max. Brilliant. Okay, welcome. My name's Adam, and this is Hannah. We're the joint artistic directors of Box of Tricks. We kind of wanted to talk, first of all, about the PlayMakers network, and why we've set it up, and why now. I guess really this is something that we've been kind of talking about for a long time, a way to kind of bring playwrights together. And we've always been interested in how we can open ourselves up to as many playwrights as possible and connecting to as many writers as possible. And actually, paradoxically, at the moment, we felt like with everything that's happening in the world and with COVID-19 and the world going into lockdown, it was probably is kind of potentially the best time for us to kind of connect to these disconnected days, but also with the kind of, everyone moving to digital realms, and this has been a prime example, is just a real opportunity for us to connect to writers across the North. And the idea really is that it's a network for Northern playwrights.
Yeah, and a way to support and keep talking to each other. As Adam was saying, actually, the move to digital that we've all had to do out of necessity has removed a lot of the obstacles that were historically preventing us from trying to set up a network and thinking about, how much we'd be asking people to pay in train fares and stuff like that to get to various meetings. Now we don't have to do that. We can see all your lovely faces on screen, which is great. So yeah, the PlayMakers network is a way of connecting. There's also a variety of opportunities that are going to be kind of popping up on there. So Pen Pals has already come on there, and actually I know I'm recognising lots of familiar names that have come through those Pen Pals submissions, so thank you very much everybody who's submitted to that. And so the next thing that we're going to be talking about is PlayBox. So PlayBox is a really important part of what Box of Tricks does, and we are joined by 8 of our PlayBox alumni. We couldn't quite get the full complement because Lindsay Williams, one of our original playboxers, is busily working on Coronation Street at the moment, so she's busy with that. But it's as I said, it's a really fundamental part of what we do. It's a really great way for us to connect with writers right at the start of their playwriting career and to invest in relationships in a really low risk way for both the company and the artist. I think that what can be really scary as a playwright is to feel like it's your only chance to get it right with a company, and if you don't write your most amazing script and you're not on your best behavior at all times and super inspirational and exciting, then that's it, you can never have a conversation with them again. And actually PlayBox isn't about that at all for us. It's about finding really exciting voices who are right at the start of their playwriting career. For whatever reason, it might be that they are really new to writing totally. It might be that they've been writing in another form or genre for a long time and are making the transition to theatre. And it's about giving that opportunity to really focus on what it is to be a playwright, learning some of those basic lessons about structure and redrafting and deadlines, and just having a play with writing for theatre, taking some time out to really think about the story that you want to tell for the stage, and having the support of Adam and myself, and also 2 other playwrights at very similar stages to help realise that and play with those ideas.
Yeah, I mean the premise is in one sense is quite simple, so it's a year-long attachment for 3 early career playwrights from the Northwest, and it was our way of nurturing talent within the region, being based in Manchester, and for us it's just a really lovely way to kind of connect with writers and have a sustained period, and for them to write a brand new play that's essentially no strings attached. And there's, when we commission the writers, it's not necessarily with a view to then putting that play on. It's actually about starting a relationship with those writers that can, go on over a period of years. And the play that they develop over the course of the year, the idea is that can then become like a calling card, and they can kind of start other relationships, or it might be something that we kind of talk to them about moving forward. So that's the kind of the basic outline. This time round we're doing an open call for writers, so this is the first time that we've had a submission window for writers. Previously it's been kind of an invitation only program, and we've kind of talked to local theatres and local universities and kind of identified local talents, and kind of the PlayBox alumni that you're going to meet have all come through that way. We've changed that this time round, and actually that was in response not only to COVID-19 and kind of everything that's happening in the world, and an opportunity for us to reach out and expand our networks, but also because we felt like we wanted the program to become more accessible, and that we could reach more people that perhaps aren't on the radar of local theatres.
Yeah, I think we'd always felt really good about our invitation only approach before, and talking to various theatres and universities and stuff like that, that we felt like that was a really good way of finding people who weren't yet working in the industry, and it was. And actually we've had 9 really lovely people that we had a really lovely time with, but actually I think that the enforced solitude and thinking time of lockdown helped us actually realise that there are obstacles and barriers to all industries, and theatre in particular sometimes, that you don't always see. So it's not always possible to be on the radar of the Royal Exchange and Liverpool Everyman just because you live in those cities and you've gone to see work in those theatres. You might not have gone and done creative writing at university. You might not have gone to university. You might not have been part of a youth theatre. You might not even know who those people to talk to would be. And yet you've got an amazing idea, an amazing voice, and you just need someone to listen to that and to talk to you about those ideas. So this gave us a really good opportunity. Actually, it's a good thing to have come out of the global pandemic, to just shake up the way we were working and just get rid of old habits and old ways of thinking, and go, right, fine, let's just start again, and let's just be really open to everybody, and hoping that actually people being at home has also removed some obstacles and barriers for them as well, and that they would therefore feel empowered to get in touch and to reach out to people like us, because we all look the same in these little boxes. So that's quite nice to get rid of that. We've also using this open submission window as a way for us to implement our positive action policy as well, which is about continuing to beginning and furthering the work to empower people who feel disempowered or disconnected or unheard. We've got, if Al could put a link to the positive action policy from our website, that'd be super helpful, which just outlines, if you think that an aspect of your identity is preventing your voice from being heard due to structural prejudices and privileges and assumptions, then just state that when you're submitting to us. Please state that. Now, I know that we've had some early PlayBox submissions who have already stated that, so that's great. We know that people are already recognising that, but please do, if you feel that applies to you, then let us know, because that's just helping us make sure that we're amplifying voices who are finding it a little bit difficult to get heard above the crowd.
In terms of the submission process, we've tried to keep it as relatively simple as possible.
Yeah, we hope.
And so in terms of meeting the criteria, we're looking for writers who are over the age of 18, who are based in the Northwest or who have a strong connection to the Northwest. So you might not be living in the region anymore, but you perhaps grew up here or brought up here, or have spent a substantial part of your life here. And you are committed to working within the region. Those are the criteria.
And that you're an early career playwright, so that you haven't had, I think on our website,
so it's a 4-week run with a professional cast, I think is the criteria for that.
So if you've done, if you've written stuff for youth theatre, that's okay. If you've done stuff at university or other amateur stuff, that's okay. If you've had short plays on, things at scratch nights, that's okay. It's really that, if you've already had a 6-week tour of a play going around the region, then you do not fit you no longer fit our definition of early career. You probably shift into the emerging category, that amorphous weird word that everyone uses. So yeah.
Good. In terms of the actual process itself, all we're asking for is an example of your work. So that could be a short play, a full-length play, something that you think best represents your voice. a simple CV or just an outline of what you've done to date in terms of your writing career. And I think that's it really, isn't it? Is that all we're asking for? Should have checked this beforehand, shouldn't we?
What people want to get out of PlayBox? Did we have?
Oh yes, yeah, and the statement about what it is that you'd hope to gain from a year-long attachment.
And that doesn't have to be. You don't have to have an idea for a play that you want to write yet. That's okay. Actually, it's more about what having a year focusing on playwriting would mean to you. So actually, if you're at a point where you go, I'm feeling like I don't know what I'm doing with redrafting. I've written this one script and I think it's good, but I don't know how to take on comments and notes and move forward. Or I've only ever written 50-minute plays and I don't know how to translate that into something bigger. Whatever you feel you would get from a year's love and support and attention, let us know that. If actually just the idea of being grouped with 2 other playwrights and having that support and being part of a family, a creative family would be positive, then let us know that. If you do have an idea, something that you've got a really burning desire to write about, that you feel now is the time that you want to write that, then please include that. That's interesting for us to know. That lets us know more about you as a writer. And I know that we'd had a couple of questions in advance about like what type of work you could submit as an example of your writing. Monologues are fine, short plays are fine. If, like, say for example, you hadn't actually ever written a play before, but you've written poetry, then you can send that. That's okay. Don't feel like you have to manufacture something specially for this application process. It's about your voice in whatever form that is taking at the moment.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, actually. We're not asking for an original script that you will then develop over the course of the year. We'll start with a new idea in January and develop those plays over the course of the year with those writers, culminating in a rehearsed reading the following January. So that's the process, kind of in a nutshell, really. And in terms of those writers, that we long list writers that we're interested in, and then we shortlist those writers, and then we meet with each of them and talk to them about what they would hope to gain from the opportunity, and then we try to find the 3 writers that we think stand to kind of gain the most from that experience and those 12 months attached to the company. So that's PlayBox, really, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
I think we've been talking enough, really, haven't we?
Yeah.
Right. Shall we put some questions to our PlayBox alumni, and we'll kind of introduce them as we go along. So the first question we've got, and this one is to Kofi and to Billy, who are on our most recent cycle, which finished at start of this year, January 2020.
Yeah. Gosh, that feels a long time ago.
So yeah, Kofi and Billy, what did you get out of PlayBox? Who's going to go first?
Billy.
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go?
Kofi, you go.
I'll go. Okay. What I gained out of PlayBox, I think I got a script out of it, first and foremost, which was massive, because I feel like it's quite difficult to just sit down and write. And I'd written one play before relatively quick, so I didn't really know about like structure and stuff like that when it came to plays. I think for me the most important thing I got from PlayBox was confidence. Like it kind of told me I could be a writer. Like I thought I could, but it isn't until you actually sit with people that work in like the industry and stuff like that give you that confidence and help people out. And like every stage we would sit and you and Max would be there and we would break down and we would say, I think this is good, I think this would do work. And I think that it's one of the only experiences I've ever had where there was like no negative, there was no negativity. Like everything I came with, you're always like, oh, you know, that's good, you can do this and try this. So I think that was important for me. So I probably what I got out of it more than anything, just confidence.
Yeah, I really second that. Like having someone tell you you're a writer and believe in you as a writer is really great. I think as well, like this sort of sustained support over a year is quite like hard to come by, and like to have someone who like gets to know you and your story and your characters at the same time that you are is really valuable. So you don't have to keep like going back and like explaining like I was doing this here, or they know the whole history. And stuff like R&D, like I'd never done an R&D workshop before, but being able to sit down with actors and hear their kind of like input into stuff was like wicked, and now I want to do it all the time and forever.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. Yeah, actually, that's a really important aspect of the year-long attachment we haven't really talked about, is that so over the course of the year you write a play, but around autumn time we have a day-long workshop with actors that we get into a room, and we well, hopefully it'll be in a room by this point. It might be a digital read through, who knows. But yeah, and we'll kind of look at what's working and what's not working in the play, and we talk about it and get that invaluable input from actors, from the inside out, and then those thoughts then kind of fed into the piece, and then for the final draft that then kind of goes into the public reading in January. So that is a really integral part of the process.
Yeah, and probably one of the most enjoyable parts, actually, for everyone involved. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn by saying that. I think the playwrights enjoy it, but actually that opportunity to just have some professional actors reading your words and asking you questions, and you being able to ask them questions. I think that's something that playwrights don't often get. You don't get to say, does this line make sense? Do you understand why I've asked your character to say this? And an actor go, oh yeah, absolutely, I totally know, and this and this and this, and then telling you lots of stuff that they know about the characters that you've created without you having to tell them. And that's a really nice feeling, and actually helps you just see the possibilities within your story and seeing your voices on stage. Yeah, and just exploring that, the creative potential of collaboration and other people, rather than just sitting in front of a laptop on your own. And yeah, like we're all doing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Good. So yeah, the next question is for the two Jameses, and this. So James Leach was on our first ever cohort of Playboxers, and James Harker was on the second round. So I think it was 2015 into 16 James Leach was on. No, 14 into 2014 into 15, and James Harker was 2016 to 17. 18. Yeah, 17 to 18. 17 to 18, right. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah, I'll just shut up. So two Jameses, what piece of advice would you give to a future playboxer?
James, you want to go first? Or should,
you go first, mate. That's up to you.
Okay, I'll go first. I guess I was chronologically.
We're interchangeable, aren't we, with our names?
Okay, so my advice, I guess, to kind of reiterate what Adam and Hannah said at the beginning, really, which is about the sort of low risk element of it, which is, because for me personally, I remember my Playbox attachment came at a time when I was working on a few other projects, and I'd worked with Adam and Hannah a few times before, and my experience with them had always been like, I'd send them a play, we'd put it on its feet, and it would almost, we'd do it in some shape or form. So my first Playbox was actually my first experience where that didn't happen. And actually the idea didn't actually really come together. And I think I just want to reiterate, I guess, what they said really, which is if it doesn't, don't beat yourself up about it. And to illustrate my point, I guess, actually I came back to my idea 6 months ago, and I'm working on it again now. So it took 5 years for me to actually get to a point where I felt comfortable to write it again. So, and that's because, some things happened to me in my life where I thought that the subject matter was actually a bit closer to maybe my experience as a person. So yeah, I would just say, don't worry if it doesn't feel like, as Hannah said, you've written the best play on earth. It really doesn't matter. As long as you've learned something, or even if you've got an idea that will sit with you for another couple of years, it still would have been a really worthwhile year.
Great, thank you. James Harker.
My first thought is to iron your shirt, because I saw the video of my and I didn't realise how awful I looked. And also, I think just to echo that again, and just in being brave in what you submit in the sample you're giving, because like Kofi said, Adam and Hannah are so positive in their feedback, and trying to find that kernel of something interesting in what you're presenting rather than critiquing you. And I think it's so rare to have the chance to work with a company whose work follows the sort of the vision or the ideas of a writer, a company that could put on something like a one-man show like Sparkplug, and then something like Chip Shop Chips. It's like a big tool about fun, and it's just so nice to have that chance to submit something or to think about an idea that is really what you want to do, and not thinking about what's the particular audience of this theatre, or what's the particular taste they have. So yeah, it's a great opportunity for that. That's my only advice.
Great, thank you. James. Yeah, and that kind of actually that really feeds into like what the idea of Playbox is all about. And in fact, Box of Tricks at large, for us, it's about finding those voices rather than the specific stories. Actually, we're what we want to do is harness the writer's idea, that their story, their vision, you know, and actually give them a process that will best support that. And when we talk about the PlayBox attachments, we often talk about it in terms of trying to create something that's bespoke and kind of tailored to each individual playwright and what they want to get out of it for those 12 months. And that's really kind of what's at the heart of for us, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we get asked quite a lot, what's a box of tricks play? And my instinct is to be like, a good one, because there isn't one. Basically, there's not a type of story or a type of writer that we want to work with. Like, just, you know, good stories, good writers, exciting voices. We like being surprised. We like being presented with stuff where we go, that's really interesting, and being pushed in different directions. So don't waste energy trying to second guess, I guess would be one of my pieces of advice. Feel free to take risks, tell the story that you want to tell, because if you believe in it, then the chances are that we will too.
Great. So next question, and this is for David Judge and Keisha Thompson. So David was on our first cycle and Keisha was on our most recent cycle. So this question is, so before PlayBox, you've both written work for yourself as solo performers. What was it like to write for others?
Keisha, should I go?
You guys are so polite.
Yeah, fine. Okay, I'll do it. Hello, everyone. Wicked. Yeah, so I suppose I should hold my hands up and say I never had aspirations, really, concrete aspirations to be a playwright. But I always had a voice to kind of link onto what you were saying before. I always had this need to say something. And I'd always kind of ranted and jotted these down, whether that was jungle MCing or whether that was poetry whilst I was at theatre school. I always had an opinion about something and a need to write that down. And I suppose being an actor and spending 10 years of my early adult life learning different things, having opinions about other things, my voice became more universal and less personal. So by the time I'd worked for you guys as an actor and introduced you to my poetry, which was full of character and full of narrative, I was on a rocket ship to try and be the best actor I could be, if not the best actor in the world. And I didn't want to pollute that by being a frustrated actor and going, oh, well, they're just not writing the right parts for me, or I'm only getting Bane parts, or I'm only having a guy who might have did it but never did do it. And I'm not going to write myself a part because I want to be the best actor and I want that to be pure. And as well, when you guys approached me to write a play, I thought the worst thing I can do is write myself in the center of it, even though all of my scribblings, all of my thoughts, all of the stuff that went into this play came from me and my voice. Straight away I said, well, my two central characters will be a mother and daughter, which means however the words look on page, once it comes to life, aesthetically, it's not me and it can't be me. And then I suppose the test then is making sure that your personal becomes universal. And for me, that meant that it's never really been a problem. The moment I knew that, I wasn't trying to be in two different genres to try and appease both different sides of me. And I just keep coming back to that one thing that I think you guys allowed me to establish and take confidence in through this course, which was I'm not a very studious person. I don't know structure. I didn't read loads of plays. I didn't go to the theatre that much, but I had a voice and something to say, which maybe some people needed and wanted to hear. And going through the PlayBox year with you guys, whether I wanted to be an actor or whether I was writing a piece for me or whether I was writing a part for another character, it was all about the spine of what actually was being written and the world that was being created. And even then, when we come to the play that I'd wrote with yous, which was brilliant, and to come back 3 years later and to go into my first full production with you guys, and that was a play about my dad that came from the first 10 years of my life. But even I ended up playing the part, but we never had that on paper, and so I was never writing a part for me, which would have made it an easier role for me as an actor. I could have changed the language, changed the casting, changed who he intimidates, who he attracts as a lover. So actually, it was really interesting for me that who played it came right at the end. And the process with you guys was just about making sure what was there was tangible for everybody. I hope that answers the question.
Definitely. Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Keisha.
Hi everyone. Hi Joe. I didn't realise it was you. Yeah, I really enjoyed having to step out of my solo show process, because doing that, it's a whole thing of like making a character out of yourself, and that's a process in itself. But it was really nice to kind of realise what things I could take from doing that and apply to this new situation. So that was the exploration and the learning for me of like, okay, it's not me, I'm not at the center of it, but there's still, my voice needs to be clear, and what I'm trying to say and the questions I'm trying to ask are still present and at the center of it. But I kind of have to communicate that through these various characters. And then it was really lovely. I they burden Adam and Hannah with all of my diagrams, because that's the way that I approach things. So all of my characters were just like, they were like layers. They were like all these things. I was like, I want to say all these things, and these characters have to say them. So I was like, this goes with that, and that goes with this, and they were just all these weird little like jigsaws of my thoughts and parts of me and people that I know, and yeah, and things that I'd seen. And so that was really nice, just kind of like building them and playing with them and just letting them speak and then sharing it. And that's when the relationship with the actors became really crucial, actually, because I'd get to a point where I was just like, I don't know how this reads. I'm only sat in a room on my own and there's 4 different voices. I literally just can't take this any further. So it was so valuable, those times when you got to sit with the actors and just hear it, because then I could just breathe and I could think, I was like, all right, okay, oh, that doesn't make sense, or that's too long, or but I just couldn't do that on my own, which is what I was used to doing with my solo work. So so then I had to learn about like how much I need to communicate, which was fun in itself, because again, Hannah got to enjoy my really elaborate stage directions. I realised I really enjoy writing like poetic stage directions, and just having a bit of a giggle with the director in how I want things to be placed, but also realising that sometimes I need to be really pedantic because there's something that's quite important to me or quite key, but I've just kind of assumed that it was just given or whatever, and then I'm speaking to the actors and they're like, how long have they been together, or what's this person's background? I was like, oh yeah, oh I didn't even put that in there, sorry. So I'm like, yeah, I knew that, but you didn't know that. So yeah, just kind of realising what stuff is really important and how do you communicate that, and also realising where I want to give space, because even though I've not written in this way before, I've done a lot of devised work. I've been brought into processes as a writer where people are kind of just in a space improvising, and I just kind of turn it into something, or like a lot of chronicling. I have to like make poems out of like conferences and stuff like that. Super fun. But yeah, so I'm used to kind of being around people and letting them be themselves and just taking that. But I realized that wasn't necessarily what this was, because there were things that I actually wanted to be done in a certain way, and I was giving the actors space to interpret it, and then I was like, oh, actually no, that's not what I want. So realizing where I kind of had to put my foot down and be a bit strict. So yeah, that was all really good learning. And the last thing that I'll say was the reading in January was great, but I haven't experienced how do I word this now? So when I'm performing, I feel nervous, but it's fine because I can channel it and I can be in control. So I remember like going into the changing room and they're all doing like their own thing, trying to get into their own zone and whatever. And I'm like, I'm nervous though, like but I don't have anywhere to put this. So I'm just sat there watching them do the performance, and I'm like shaking and thinking, oh, I need to perform, I need to get this energy out, like I don't know what to do. So that was a thing of like, I'm gonna have to learn what it means to just sit there and watch other people perform my work. And as much as I'm precious about it and I want to like be in control, I've got to find what my outlet is to kind of relieve myself and like bask in it, but not in the way that they're getting to. So I realized that was kind of like robbed of that, and that was fine. But yeah, I was just kind of sat there, I was like a little jittering mess. Yeah, hope that answers the question as well.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. And then our final question is for Furkan and for Paddy, who were both in our second cycle of PlayBox, and this is really kind of exploring the different directions you can go in after having done something like PlayBox. So this question is, what have you been up to since PlayBox?
Furkan sneakily made me go first. So I'm gonna kick it off. Firstly, I'd like to say you can't really underestimate the power of having a year with a theatre company and two really different and important dramaturgs that can kind of help you and lead you through a kind of early stage of your writing. For me, it kind of instilled a lot of confidence in me as a writer and a person. And in many ways, it was a catalyst for kind of like the next period of my life. So this is kind of an interesting question because after, it probably was coincidence, but after PlayBox was a kind of different step in my kind of writing and theatre career. I feel like with the year attachment, I learned how to kind of tap into ideas of me that I didn't know I had the confidence to explore. And then after that, I kind of ended up doing the opposite of what Box of Tricks did, and I moved from the Northwest to London, which was a kind of scary move, but it was also quite exciting, and I'm still there now. And instead of kind of listing a CV, basically I moved to go and work. I got a job at the National Theatre, and I was the assistant to the head of new work for a year and a half. Now I work at the Lyric Hammersmith, and I'm Rachel O'Riordan's assistant. I also run their Young Writers Programme, and then outside of that, I'm a reader for the 503, for Soho, for Vaults, and just kind of keeping kind of fingers into pies, so to speak, in theatre, and just kind of still trying to really discover kind of where I fit in, but I feel like that's quite a positive way to be. I've also been running a lot of workshops, especially in the lockdown, and a lot of the things that I use and talk about, a lot of it was gained from a year working with Box of Tricks and other writers, surrounding myself with different ways of working and different people who create different work in a multitude of ways. And it sounds quite corny, and you'll be told this throughout the year, but it is completely true that you're always part of this growing family. And there's always promises to stay in touch, but actually we've managed to keep in touch. Kind of, you can just, it feels very casual. You can drop emails, they'll drop you an email, just kind of updates. Adam's just finished watching a Zoom of my next play, which I wrote, which is the play I've written after the Box of Tricks one. And I find it's really interesting that has come out of that, because I couldn't have written this play now without the one that came before it, and that was the one I did with Box of Tricks. So it's this important thing that you can tap into and you can become a part of, and don't feel like you have to come out of it a fully formed and accomplished playwright, because I'm not even nearly there yet. But I feel like it's definitely been a part of my kind of growing as an artist and as a writer, and it's something that will stay with you for as long as, and it's something you can tap back into whenever you need it.
Amazing, thank you, Paddy. And Furkan.
Oh yeah, I second a lot of what Paddy just said there. It was, I think I came to PlayBox when I was in a sort of weird place in my career where I was writing a lot of like kids TV, and I'd lost a lot of confidence. I was like really sort of bruised, and I was kind of like, right, what do I kind of want to do next? And being able to have something as nurturing as like PlayBox was just exactly what I needed. And I thought, well, if I can do this, if I can have the confidence, if I can nurture my own writing without like the many voices of TV, I think as well was like really important for me. So I kind of thought, well, I'm going to, if I'm able to achieve this, then I can kind of use that, and it instilled this sort of like new confidence for me as well, that I was like, now I know what I can do going forwards. Like I know that I can do it. So if I have to work in a shop whilst I do this, or have to do other stuff whilst I sort of pursue what I want to do long term, that that's the right thing to do, like especially if you don't have those sort of like, if you don't have a background of money or whatever, or that sort of safety net. So yeah, that I think it gave me a confident safety net, as cheesy as that sounds, but what that did is that pushed me, and since then I've approached like different production companies with my original TV idea. We've got a script commission from the BBC for my original, which is like has been amazing. So I'm in development with the BBC on an original project. I'm working on a cartoon for Netflix, and I am working on Paul Abbott's new show, which is insane. And most recently, I've just signed on to a big ITV show as more than a writer, which has been a bit of a game changer and is absolutely terrifying. But like all of that, I can literally, in my sort of like almost like mental health journey, can trace back to the fact that PlayBox gave me that confidence to kind of go, right, if I can do this, that means I can be in a room with Paul Abbott, that means I can do all these other things. So yeah, I'm really, really grateful for the experience.
Amazing, thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate all your comments, and yeah, thank you. So yeah, we've had a couple of questions ahead of time, so what we'll do is we'll go through those. If you do have any questions, please do either raise your digital hand if you'd like to ask them in person, or feel free to stick them into the group chat, and we'll come round to them. Yeah, because we've got about 20 minutes left. So the first question was about feedback and whether we give feedback to writers on the scripts that they submit.
The short answer to that is no, not really, partly because that's just an example of your writing. So it's not, it's in a way, I don't really think it's our place to give you feedback on that, because you're not, that's just you saying, here's my voice, here is who I am. Actually, from our point of view, that's just the starting point for a conversation. What we will do is, for those writers who get to the shortlist but don't end up making the final three, we'll have a more detailed conversation with you about why you're not part of the final three, and also ideas about where you might be going, how our conversations can continue. But for those writers who are long-listed, don't progress any further than that, or for those writers who have submitted but unfortunately don't make it further than just that open submissions, that's still the start of a conversation with us. So don't feel that you can't knock on the door again and say, hi, I submitted to this and I wasn't successful, but can I talk to you about, yeah,
because this is more than just an opportunity for us to identify three writers.
Yes.
It's also to kind of start a relationship with other writers in the network, and for people to get on our radar, and for us to get an idea of their voice and kind of plays that they want to do. Yeah, they want to write. Sorry. So yeah, next question we had in advance was, yeah, how do you select the writers that we work with, and if there's two writers at a kind of similar level, what's the criteria to make that final decision? I think for us, it kind of comes back to that point I was making earlier about finding the three writers are going to most benefit from that 12-month attachment.
And also, there's, to be honest, it's quite a difficult question to answer in a satisfying way, in that there's sort of an alchemy about the three writers and going, right, they're interested in these things, this is what they want to get out of the year, this is what they're bringing to the table already. Oh, actually, they might spark off each other really, really interestingly, and that could be good, and they talk about it in this way. And so it's kind of a magic that we go, well, we've got 7 writers who would all really benefit, and they've got interesting stories to tell, interesting voices, but actually those 3 would work together really well, and that could create something more than the sum of their parts. So so it's not necessarily about similarity. I think actually in the play boxes that we've had in the past, there have been writers who have had similarities about the way they approach character or their interest in subject matter or stuff like that, but actually we've never really had a kind of like for like situation where I've gone, well, we've got these 2 playwrights who are both from Bolton and they both want to write about football. Ooh, which one's better? Sort of not. That's not really how we approach that. So yeah, that's not a very satisfying answer, I'm afraid, but it's about thinking about the family that we're going to create and the energy that those three are going to generate amongst them, and how they're going to all take that forward and benefit from that. And the idea that, you know, we hope that those relationships and conversations between the playwrights as well continue, that it's not just about being part of our family, but that they're now related and connected, and that's something that we're exploring in Pen Pals as well.
Great. There's another question here about having the idea at this stage, at the point of application, and when you're submitting, do you need to have an idea of what it is that you want to write? And again, the short answer is no, because really what we're interested in is you know, you guys as writers and what it is that you want to get out of the opportunity, and to have an example of your writing, so that we've got, you know, a better handle on you as a writer. But then we want to go on that journey from the seed of an idea through to, you know, first draft, through to development, through to that rehearsed reading, and that's, you know, far more satisfying for us creatively, but also I think is a more interesting journey for writers as well.
Yeah, or you might have more than one idea. Looking at James Harker here, who always has more than one idea, and when he started PlayBox had several that he wanted to explore, and we kind of we talked about all of them and kind of honed in on the one that felt the right one to do at that point.
And this was, I mean, when we first conceived of PlayBox, it was in part kind of an antidote, I suppose, to kind of big competitions, like, you know, all those amazing competitions like Papatango and Bruntwood, and which are great opportunities, but you send one script and you've got one shot. Really, this was more about supporting writers and nurturing writers over, you know, a 12-month period, rather than just having, you know, that one opportunity.
We are not, so yeah, short answer, we are not in any way going to judge your submission based on an idea that you want to write about. Good. At all.
Right, Max, how are we doing? Have we got some questions from the chat room? Can you help us?
We've got some. Yes, indeed. Okay, so the first one is there a maximum or minimum word count or page count for the example of writing when they submit?
I think...
No, there's no...
Did we say around 30 pages?
No,
was that... No?
That's Pen Pals.
That was Pen Pals. No, so then in which case, no. I mean, selfishly, if I were to have 70 200-page scripts to read, that would be a lot of reading for me. But no, there's not. Like, if you've got a really beautifully crafted 200-page play and that really sums up who you are as a writer, please send it. If, however, you've got, you know, a 10-page play that absolutely encapsulates your voice, then send that. And
I would say send the piece of work that's, you know, you're most proud of, that you feel best represents your voice. That's what I would say, whatever the length.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Next question is: if you have self-produced a run at the Edinburgh Fringe, 3 to 4 weeks, are you still able to apply under the submission criteria?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing as long as it then didn't get picked up and tour regionally and get, you know, win loads of awards.
I think Edinburgh Fringe is probably an exception to you know, kind of typical touring. So yeah, I'd always rather include people rather than exclude people on that sort of basis.
Next question: would a comedy play be eligible?
Yes.
Yep.
Great.
Definitely in these times.
More things to laugh about, the better, please.
Yeah. And the final question I've got is: can you submit a few short monologues or sketches, or does the submission need to be part of the same piece? So could it be a few pieces from different things? Yeah,
if there was, if it's kind of a collection of pieces, that's definitely, and actually in a sense that, you know, we could then kind of from that, you know, hear that writer's voice. So yeah, so it doesn't need to be a full length script that's perfectly polished and everything else. It's actually more about us kind of reading, writing, and figuring out what that writer's all about.
Yeah.
What makes them tick.
Yeah, that's all the questions in the chat.
Great.
Oh, a new question. When is the deadline?
Yeah, that's a good question. We haven't even talked about that. So we opened the submission window. We've got a 2-month submission window. It opened last week, and it's through to the end of August. All the details are on the link that I'll put on the group chat. So do click through to that, and that should answer all of the questions about deadlines and whatnot. Any other questions? Oh yeah, thank you very much, Sam. So yeah, we've
cheeky plug.
Cheeky plug, yeah. So we recorded a lockdown podcast. Is it last week, week before?
Week before.
Yeah, so that's going to be coming out soon. So yeah, so we'll and that's Get Your Play On, and it'll be available on all major platforms. Sam Brady, thank you very much for that plug. Good. So thank you very much for joining us today. It's been really nice to kind of meet you digitally, see kind of, you know, like all your faces. And we really look forward to reading your submissions. And if you do have any questions, if anything crops up after this,
feel free to
just drop us a line. It's playmakers@boxertrickstheatre.co.uk, and all the details are on our website as well. So thank you very much.
Yeah, looking forward to reading your work.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a great afternoon. Cheers, guys. Bye now.